Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 270. It is Tuesday. Here in Cincinnati is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It was one of those mornings where I could put on a long sleeve t-shirt and shorts for my run, which is like the best kind of running weather. It was really chilly and so perfect to be outside. Sky's blue. The trees are all shedding their leaves. It's just the prettiest day today. So I trust wherever you are as you're listening to this, you have some time to be outside and to soak in the changing seasons and just the beauty, the absolute beauty of this planet. All right, today we are talking about stepping up. Stepping up. It's the perfect segue from next to me, and as we move into this Libra season of balance and partnerships and, harmony. So there's a few reasons this is coming up. The first one, I guess I'll start with the TV show. So my husband and I recently have been watching this show called Designated Survivor on Netflix. And if you haven't heard of it, Kiefer Sutherland is the main lead in the show. And it's based on this idea that the United States government designates one person as the survivor if anything tragic would happen to the political system, and that person is kept separate and isolated when the entire cabinet and government officials are all gathered, so that if something would happen, that one person can remain and continue the structure of politics and the foundation of how this country works. I had no idea that was a thing until I saw the show. And in the very first episode, this awful attack happens. Everyone is killed, including the president, the vice president, everybody. And this one designated survivor, Kiefer Sutherland, is the person who's been a very lower level cabinet member who is called to now become the president of the United States. And so the series follows, we're in the second season right now, watching it on Netflix. The series follows his journey of stepping into a position that he never thought he would have, with the power and the responsibility and the crisis that was happening in the country. And so it shows just how overwhelmed he becomes and how he's trying to make decisions based on a lifestyle he is not familiar with. He's lower level government, and now he's suddenly in the most important office in the whole system. And he isn't quite sure what to do, and he's questioned on his integrity. And, in a time of panic and crisis, the things that are coming up are not even typical things that a president would be dealing with. So it's a fascinating study in leadership and integrity and the behind the scenes of politics from this one person's perspective. It's a fascinating series, and we have really enjoyed watching how he navigates it as a character that, is presented in this show. How he navigates it and how he finds a way to stay in integrity even when everyone around him expects him to follow a certain old familiar way of doing things. He creates his own new way of leadership, and it's really inspiring. The character is so well written. The other thing that I find so interesting about it is what it does to his family. His family was just living a normal life, and then overnight their entire world literally changes, blows up as everybody is killed. And not only are they losing some of their friends from the government, but now they have to move to the White House. They have security around them. In the show, he has a teenage son and a young daughter, and then his wife. And it just shows how everyone in the family is impacted and how they have to step up. Even though they didn't choose it, neither did he choose it. Everyone has to step into this new reality, and everything that they say and do is scrutinized, and their actions are, shared publicly. Their lives are tested and put in danger. There's just this whole rippling out that impacts everybody in that space, in that family. And it's not just the one person who steps up, it's the whole family that steps up. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I highly recommend at least the first few episodes of it. Designated Survivor is the name, just for the curiosity of what would that look like if our governmental system fell apart and one person who didn't know the ways had to step in and start leading. Would things shift and be different? Quite fascinating. So that's one example. We have been watching some of that, and it's been on my mind. And then the second would be the United Nations Climate Summit that is currently much a topic of conversation on social media. If you have not yet seen the video of Greta Thunberg, I think is how you pronounce her last name, young activist, if you have not yet seen her video, I'm going to share that on my page. You can Google it or YouTube it, tweet it, anywhere. You'll see it's all over social media right now. I strongly encourage you to watch this young woman, young girl, she's still so young, 16 years old, step up into a role that I am sure she never thought in her conscious mind would be hers. I'm sure at a soul level, this was all prearranged by her soul to be this voice for a whole generation, for a movement, and yet the conscious mind would not remember that or understand that. So she is stepping into this voice for really our planet, for humanity that is wanting to survive and live and flourish on this planet. She spoke yesterday at the summit, and her speech sends chills down my spine. She's just remarkable and powerful and so clear on what she feels and how she expresses it, so filled with actual data and knowledge that she can present in a way that makes it understandable to those of us who don't understand what's actually happening in the scientific realms. She also is not afraid to say the things that need to be said, and her emotion that comes through it's just breathtaking. She's from Sweden, and her account, when you look on social media, she calls herself an activist, climate change activist. And she is creating a pathway for her generation and all of us to follow of how to take action, inspired collaborative action to have our voices be heard. And then she's willing to put herself to step up right into the main role and put herself in the stage presence of the message that needs to come through. That courage seen in a young child is, I keep wanting to say remarkable. It's so magnificent. It's so good. It's so good. And it makes a 48-year-old like me go, oh, what have I been doing with my life? At 16, look at her at 16. She's so powerful and so in alignment with her destiny and with truth. And she's speaking for all of us. So that inspired this theme today of stepping up. What I want to focus on or mention is also what that does for all of us. So just like in Designated Survivor, when Kiefer Sutherland's role is called into the role of president, then his whole family steps up with him and they do what is required to support him to be able to do his job. It's the same for us. When Greta Thunberg steps up and says, this is the time, right here, right now, we're drawing a line and things have to change. Something different has to be done. One of her phrases she said, it was either in that speech or in one of the other articles. She said, "Our house is on fire. This is an emergency." And the way she says it, you're like, oh, yes. Right? When we say our house is on fire, we feel the sense of momentum or the urgency behind it to do something. And that's really what she is encouraging all of us to look at, to learn more about, and then to see what can we do to become involved, to step up with her. If she's willing to be the face and the voice, what are the rest of us as a humanity going to do? What has happened in just an overnight time frame is that those who don't understand or those who don't agree are projecting and pointing and throwing accusations at this young woman. She's a child still. She's not even 18. Throwing projections at her based on their fear, based on their ignorance, based on their unwillingness to look at what is actually true. And when we step up in ways such as in Designated Survivor or in Greta's example here, when we step up, many of us perhaps are afraid to step up because we have seen the projections thrown at those who step up. We have seen the backlash, or in many past lives perhaps we have felt and experienced for ourselves what happens when we step up. So what if part of what is available in this shifting energy of Libra in the new moon cycle, full moon cycle that we've just completed and that we're moving into is the completion of the karma? Remember, I talked about this last week, that the round trip, return trip, implies karma, and that we can complete that cycle and let that go. So if we have been afraid in the past of the backlash because it has happened and we have suffered or we have been killed or whatever our stories have been, if that fear is in our cells, in our memory, in our soul, what if these examples that I'm sharing here, what if Greta's example alone can be enough to inspire us to say that karma can be completed. I can allow that old belief and story to move out and to be handed over to the earth. And I can draw from the strength of those who are stepping up with me to also expand my voice, to also bring to the forefront the things that I know I'm here to say, to do, to create. It takes so much courage to identify, to feel what our individual unique voice is, what our destiny is, or one of our many phases of our destiny. It takes a lot of courage to look at that and then to be willing to start coming into full alignment with it and expressing it. And maybe it's overnight that it happens, like in Designated Survivor. He was sitting in a meeting room, watching TV, talking to his daughter on the phone, and the whole place down the road blew up, and he realized his life would never be the same. With Greta, it's been progressively, gradually creating momentum. So she started with small expressions that became bigger, that got more attention, and now she presents to the world leaders and has a national, international platform because she's ready for it, because she's stepping up more and more and more, and momentum is carrying her into the greater expression of what she's here to be. We can align with either version of that in our own journey. If it feels like we want to start with small expressions, start. Do something that allows you to stay in alignment with your truth and express it in a way that feels good and authentic. And watch how when you do that, when you trust the ways you're stepping up, watch how the momentum gathers underneath you. And then suddenly there's more momentum and more momentum and more momentum. And before you know it, your voice is being heard by so many others who have the same belief, who have the same interest, and just haven't known where to gather yet. Haven't known who has a similar opinion or focus or path. And as we start to all step up in small ways or big ways, the tide can shift. And that's what Greta is really encouraging. Take action, because action creates movement, momentum, change. And right now, that's what is most needed. So each one of us will have a different way of doing that, right? For me, it's this podcast. For me, it's the work that I do, the healing work that I do. It's these festivals that so focus on how can humanity, source, and Gaia Earth come into greater harmony. How can we as humans show appreciation for this planet, visualize the optimal health of this planet, commit to the optimal health of our own mind, body, spirit? Because as we as humans evolve and become more healthy, more joyous, more in alignment with our truth and our destiny, all of that shifts the energy field of Earth, of Gaia. And so we are doing our part to create change, to heal, to play, to laugh, to create this new Earth that I always talk about. So whatever inspiration comes as you listen to me share this, whether it's simply to watch Greta's speech and then see where that takes you, or to tune into Designated Survivor and see what that example of leadership brings, or if you already know what your destiny is and you know what the next step is, you just haven't had the strength or the push or the oomph to go do it, maybe that's what this episode of the podcast gives you, is that little nudge to say that thing on social media, do that thing that you know is your truth, wanting to be expressed. Trust it. Take action today. Step into this energy of Libra. Create new partnerships. Share your idea of harmony and balance. And then watch what unfolds from there. It's good. It's so good. So blessings to the most beautiful Greta Thunberg. May we all continue to support you and uplift you and to hold you steady as you take this leadership role. It is with such gratitude that we watch this happen. Thank you for tuning into this vibration of pure love. I invite you to join me in aligning with the optimal health of your mind, body, spirit in the virtual community of Viv's Energy Gym. You can learn more at mysouljourney.com. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.